Hello, what's up YouTube? Ronnixphotography, and in this tutorial I'll show you guys how you can steal color grading from any image or any movie that you have loved and you really fell in love with the colors that you saw in that maybe photo or that given movie. So I'll show you guys, we're going to be stealing colors from this very image taken by K's photographs, and I'm going to put his Instagram link in the description of this very video. We are just going to steal these exact colors and place them to this other image like you can see right now. So this was the image before and this is the image after stealing the colors. So you're just going to be looking that right now. So I'm just going to delete this and I'm going to come to the reference. So under reference, we want first of all sample the colors that are embedded in this very image. And in order to sample the colors in this image, you're going to simply come to File, you're going to come to Export and come to Save for Web Legacy. And for older versions of Photoshop, your option may be slightly under the export option. So I'm just going to come and hit Save for Web Legacy. So in order to get back the image, I'm just going to hit Command minus to zoom out. So I'm going to come to Tool App just like that and come back to my original. So if at all I come and change this to a GIF file, you can see that it has automatically sampled for us all the colors in this image. You can see the 256 colors in this square right here, and they have different variations. So we don't want to get all those colors, we only want to get, just want it to sample for us the best 3 colors that we're going to be basing on to color grade our image. So we just want to steal 3 basic colors from this beautiful portrait. So you're just going to come to colors and you're just going to type in 3 and simply hit enter. So you can see I've lost out on the swatches, but that shouldn't be your biggest worry. You can come back and use Tool App and come back to the original and you get back the colors the way they are meant to look. So we have 3 basic colors right here. So it is these colors that we want to save somewhere and embed them in the gradient map to be like a starting point for our theft of the colors. I'm calling it theft because we are basically stealing the color grading from this very image. So you can see these are the colors. So when you want to save these colors, you're just going to come to this option right here and you're going to come to Save Color Table. So when you come to Save Color Table, it is going to show us where we would love to save this color table that we're going to embed in our gradient maps. So we're just going to come and rename this to whatever we want. So for this case, we can call it maybe Steal. I think that will be fine. And after doing that, we're just going to come to the folder where we want to save that, and I'm just going to save this in this folder called Olive Edited. I'm just going to hit save to save my color table in that location. So after doing that, I'm just going to come and hit cancel. So right now what we want to do, we want to bring back those color swatches into the gradient map. So we're just going to come to the image we want to do the color grading onto, and after it has been opened, come to the gradient map. So I'm just going to come to the gradient map and open the gradient map. So by default, our gradient map is going to look different. So I'm just going to come and open this and get it to look like it is meant to look. So by default, you may be having black and white, but this shouldn't be your concern right now. So I'll show you guys how you can import the color table that we saved from the previous step from the reference image right here. We're just going to simply come to Window and you're going to come right down here to Swatches. So when you open the swatches, you're going to notice that it's going to open for us this other window right here. I'm just going to move it towards this side. So you can see that it has different colors. So we want to import the swatches that we saved recently so that we can embed it into the gradient map or we can map the gradients in that color table. So you're just going to come here and you're going to come to import swatches. And for other versions of Photoshop, you may be having something like load swatches. So I'm just going to come to import swatches, then look for my folder, and remember I named our color swatch steel. So I'm just going to click on it. And for Windows, you may be having something like load or an option like load, and make sure that you have opted for the color table. So you select right down there before opening it, because you may not be able to locate it or open it. So make sure you check out that option. So I'm just going to come and hit open to open this, and when you open it, you're going to see that it has created for us this folder down here. So you just want to open that to see our swatches. You're just going to see the three colors that we have right here. So after it has opened for us all those colors under the swatches window, we just want to embed those colors into the gradient or map them into the gradients of this very image. So you simply single click right here, and when you single click, it is going to open for us the gradient editor right here. So usually we have the shadows on this left hand side, and we have the highlights on the right hand side, and right in the middle we have the midtones. That is what we want to map into the gradient map. So I'm just going to come and make single click right here on the color on this pointer and come to color. So when you come and click on the color option, it is going to get for us the eyedropper tool. So with the eyedropper tool, remember we have just pointed out on the highlight. So for this case, this is our highlight. I'm just going to click right there. So when you click that, it's going to sample this very color under the colors right here. And what you have to consider or take into consideration is the brightness level. So for this case, for the highlights on the brightness level, we have 86%. So make sure you note down this figure or this value and simply hit OK. So after hitting OK, simply come to the location and type in that brightness level, which is 86, just like that. So we are going to come and make the same adjustment. So come and click there, click on the color option and do the same for the shadows. Sample from the shadow area and make sure you note down the brightness, which is the brightness level, which is 7 for this case. Hit OK, type in to the location 7, and you're going to make another point. So we could make another point right there and do the same. Come to color and come to this midpoint. Take into consideration the brightness, which is 45%, and simply press or hit OK, just like this. So we have 45 and hit OK. Come to the location and just type in 45. So when you're done doing that, simply hit OK. And when you hit OK, you can now come and close this, because we no longer need them at this very moment. So come the blending mode and change it from normal and look for soft light. So you can see that this is getting us closer to our reference image, but this is not all for the stealing of the color grade in this very image, because you can see in the shadow area we have this kind of bluish tone in the shadow area, and which we don't have right now. So this gradient is too much for our liking. So what we want to do, we're just going to come to opacity and simply reduce on the opacity. So I think I'm just going to go with an opacity of around 60 for this image. So this is the before and after. Then the next thing we want to do is we want to sample and get the colors from this very reference image. So we are just going to come back to the reference image one more time. So when we do come to this reference image, you're just going to come and create a new blank layer. So when you create that new blank layer, you're just going to first of all come to the eyedropper tool. So because we want this eyedropper tool to sample correctly the colors that we want to copy and target from this very image. So when you get the eyedropper tool, make sure the sample size is either 3 by 3 or 5 by 5 average, and sample is on the current layer. After doing that, come and get the brush tool and make sure it is, so you can choose whichever brush you want to use, but for this case I just want to use a soft round brush, but I want to leave the hardness at 100%, and I'm just going to hit enter. So right now I want to sample from this image. So the very first color I want to sample from this image is the shadows. So in order to sample, I'm just going to simply look for the darkest areas and simply click. So alternate, and now left click on that area to sample from the darkest part of this image. So you could as well go for a slightly brighter dark area like that, and when you're done doing that, simply left click and paint over the image. So this is going to be like our darkest point for this portrait. So you just want to sample now the brightest part, and that brightest part should be the skin tone. Remember, even in our image right here we have skin, so just want to sample the brightest area from the skin tone of the image. So come in now, we have to zoom in right now. So the brightest point I think should be on the cheekbone. So hold down the alternate button and click left click to sample from that bright area of the skin, and I'm just going to zoom out, command minus, and now I'm going to simply click and paint over just like that. So right now I've gotten the highlights and the shadows from, or these are basically the samples from the highlights and the shadows of this very image. So what we want to do now is to get the midtones. So for midtones, this is kinda a little bit tricky because we are now going to come and select the background layer. So when you come to the background layer, you're going to simply come to select, and you're going to come to the color range option. So under color range, make sure you come, the select is on the midtones and the selection is also activated. So you can play around with the fuzziness to see what works best for you, but if at all you want some kind of precise selection, I would recommend that you take the fuzziness all the way down, and now you can play around with the range to get a wider range from your midtones, and I think that looks fine to me. And I'm going to simply press or hit OK, just like that, and you can see that it has sampled for us the midtones in this image. So we're just going to, while this selection is active, simply hit Ctrl or Command J just like that to get our midtones on a brand new layer. So if at all I turn these layers off, you can see that we have the midtones of this very image really highlighted. So I'm just going to turn this back on. So right now what I want to do with this selected, I'm just going to simply turn off the background layer, and now I'm going to come to filter because I want the average of the midtones in this image. So I'm just going to come to filter, blur, and I'm going to come to average. So when I come to average, you are going to notice that it has gotten for me an average color of the midtones in this very image. So that average color is what I want to sample and paint over on this new layer. So come and select the new layer right here, and with the brush tool selected, hold down the alternate button or the alternate key on the keyboard and left click to sample from those midtones, and simply come and paint over to get the midtones right now. So I'm just going to turn this back on, the background layer. I'm just going to turn it on and simply select this layer 2, and I'm just going to delete it because I no longer need it. So we want to copy this and paste it on this new image that we want to color grade, or that we want to paste those effects onto. So I'm just going to come and make sure that this layer 1 is selected and hit Command C or Control C on the keyboard to copy, and I'm going to come and press Command V to paste that. So I'm just going to get the move tool and I'm going to move this to a desirable area. So I think here is fine. So what I want to do, just going to move it. So what I want to do right now, I'm just going to make sure that I map these colors and blend them into this particular image. And what to do, I'm just going to come and select the gradient map, then come to the adjustments and come to my curves adjustment layer. So with the curves adjustment layer selected, before you can do anything, because we just want to sample these colors and place them onto this image. But before you can do anything, because you're not going to be able to sample anything, if at all this white mask is selected, you're not going to be affecting the image in any way or the other. So come and make sure that this icon right here is selected and the mask is not selected. So what we want to sample first is the white point. So in order to select this white point, you're going to simply double click right here. So when you double click on that eyedropper tool of the white point, simply come and single click on this to sample this specific color. And now we're just going to simply hit OK. And it is going to bring for us this other window. Save the new target color as default, because right now we don't want to save them. So I'm just going to simply hit no. So right now I'm going to zoom in and make sure that I click on the brightest part of the skin in this image. So just going to hit that. Just click on. So you have to just continue sampling and get the brightest part of the model skin, since this was sampled from the brightest part of the model skin. So I think this is the brightest part. I'm just going to hit Command minus to zoom out. So we are going to do the same for the shadows, and I'm just going to simply double click and now come and left click to sample from this area. So I'm going to look for the darkest part of the image. So when you sample, come and hit OK. And now I don't want to save this as the default target colors. I'm just going to hit no. So I'm going to look for the darkest part of this image. So I think around here I have the darkest part of this very image. So I think that is fine. So you can see that we are now getting closer to this very image. So you can keep on sampling to get to the darkest color. So I think here is better. So right now we just want to get and sample the midtone. So double click and come and left click to sample from this color, which is for the midtones, and come and simply hit OK. So I don't want to save this as a default. Simply hit no. And now I'm going to look for the gray areas in this very image. So just going to zoom in and look for the gray area in this very image. So I think we have a gray area right there. I'm just going to zoom out. So you have to keep on checking and sampling different areas to look for the gray part of the image. So keep on sampling to get the most gray area or the most neutral color. So I think the gray area must be around there. So you have to keep on sampling to get that gray area. So because if at all you don't get the gray area, it is not going to get for you those midtones quite well. So I think we had a gray area right on this pole right there. So you can see right now we have the colors for us. So I'm just going to close the curves adjustment layer and I'm just going to turn this off. So we want to see if at all we have successfully been able to copy the colors. So this was the image initially before, and this is the after, before, after, and back to the reference image. This is the image that we are copying colors from, and you can see they slightly look identical. So you can come and simply create another vibrance adjustment layer. So I'm failing to find my vibrance. It's right there, and you can increase on the vibrance just like that, and you can come and even increase on the contrast for this image just like that. So basically this is how to steal color grading from any image in Photoshop, because you may be looking at the image and you may be wondering maybe they don't look identical, but all the colors are exact from this very image, because these models have different skin tone variations and the images were shot under different lighting conditions. That's why you may see a very little and slight difference between the color grading, but this is the best way to steal colors from an image or a movie in Photoshop. So if at all you'd love to save this as your LUT, you can simply come and delete this because we no longer need that. So make sure you don't group everything and simply come to File and come to Export and come to Export As. So when you come to Export As, so before you can even do that, I'm just going to close that. So come to File, and we are going to come right here to Export, because we just want to save the LUT and not save the image. So we're just going to come to Color Lookup Tables, and you can name it whichever name you want, and save it as a cube, because you can use this cube for your Premiere Pro projects and also your Photoshop images. So this can work for both versions, and simply hit OK. So you can save it. Maybe I'm just going to name this maybe color steal, like that, and save it to the same folder and simply hit OK. And it is going to take a few seconds, and it is going to be able to save this very image. So if at all, I'm going to group all these, Command G to group them and deactivate that. So I'm just going to select the background layer and come to color lookup and come and look for load 3D LUT and look for that destination where I saved the image, which is olive edited, and I have my LUT in this folder. So I could, hopefully I saved my LUT right here. So you can just look for your LUT basically and play it to put the LUTs into your images. So basically that is how to save the LUT. So this was the image initially, before and after, before, after. And if at all you have loved this tutorial, don't forget to like this video, don't forget to subscribe this channel. If at all you have loved this tutorial and you want to really start stealing color grading from any image or any movies that you have watched, I'm Ronnix from ronnixphotography. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in yet another tutorial. And don't forget to keep practicing and keep creating.